Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Convention of States, Indiana Live. That's a new introduction piece that we just tried out tonight. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and I hope it turned out right. We'll see how it went. But once again, we're back on for our broadcast this evening. And if you are a person that thinks that we still have a big problem with our federal government, then stay tuned, because we at Convention of States have a solution as big as the problem. Okay, so let me get myself back here, and hopefully you can see me. So and I'll get myself set up here for the next part of this. But once again, everyone, good evening. My name is Dale Parrish. I am the state director for Convention of States here in Indiana, and I want to welcome you to this evening's broadcast. As usual, our broadcast, actually we have 4 segments to our broadcast. I've always said 3, and I really should be saying 4 segments. The first segment will be a discussion segment, and this evening we're going to have Paul Phillips back with us. Paul has become pretty much a regular on our broadcast, and of course Paul always brings some good topics to talk about tonight. So every night, I should say, every broadcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about the leadership summit that was just conducted for Convention of States at the end of August. And Paul attended that leadership conference, and I was not able to attend this year, but Paul did. And so Paul is going to be leading a discussion to tell everyone what transpired at the conference. And it's actually called the Leadership Summit, and it was very, very good. I got to stream and view some of the segments of the summit. So it's I think you'll find it very, very interesting. In segment 2, I'm going to go to my PowerPoint presentation and give you a little information about what's happening here in the state of Indiana with Convention of States. Segment 3, we're going to talk about the basics of Convention of States. Now, these are the 3 tenets that that our whole program is based upon. And if you're new to Convention of States, just joining us maybe for the first time, I think you'll find this very interesting and helpful in understanding what we're all about. And then the last segment, we'll wrap things up. We'll recognize those individuals as best we can that have joined us this evening. So then we'll, as I said, then we'll wrap things up. Now, before we get going further here, before I bring Paul on, I want to issue my standard warning to you, and that is that if your screen freezes up or if it just goes blank, please understand we've probably encountered a technical problem. It has happened in the past, could happen again very easily. If that does happen, don't wait for us to come back on. This just takes too long to get everything up and going again. So if that does happen, go on about your evening and plan on joining us again next Monday evening at 7 p.m. for another broadcast. So just want to make you aware of that. Like I said, it has happened and will probably, unfortunately, happen again. So let's get into our first segment here, and let me bring Paul in to the broadcast. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Dale. How are you tonight?
Good, good. Glad you could come on, join us this evening. Paul, we wanted to talk about tonight. We want to talk about, let me get up some things here that we wanted to show. But we wanted to talk about Leadership Summit. And what were the dates again for this summit?
The summit was held in Colonial Williamsburg, Virginia, August 22nd through the 25th. So just a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, good. And now I know you're going to cover some things this evening, but I know you told me that there's a website, right, where, let me bring that up here for people to go to. You want to explain that?
Yeah, so that's cosleadershipsummit.com, COS Leadership Summit, all one word. And that has some fantastic content. Every one of the plenary sessions where the whole group met have been recorded, and they're available for you to watch. So those sessions were great. There were actually roughly 400 attendees or COS volunteers participating. And we just had some great speakers, and I think you'll enjoy every one of them.
Okay. All right. Great. Now, I know you mentioned that there were some very interesting workshops that occurred. Am I right?
Yes. That in addition to the plenary sessions, we had 4 separate workshop sessions. So this was really a working meeting, and some of the topics in the workshop session were, how to meet with your legislator, how to do legislative testimony, how to recruit volunteers, how to run email campaigns, activism, how to reach the millennial generation. So there were lots of great topics that were covered.
Great. Well, I think if I'm correct, we had Indiana was well represented with a special guest. Am I correct?
That's right. The Indiana delegation was about 10 of us. And one of those guests was our own Senator Travis Holdman. He was our sponsor for the COS resolution that passed in 2016. And we were very excited that he was able to attend. And he was actually one of the experts on a couple of the workshops in teaching our volunteers how to effectively meet with legislators.
I'll tell you that I think that's really special when you think about it. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when he found out about this summit, he actually reached out to us to see if he could come. Am I right?
That's correct. So initially, we had planned on doing another simulated convention like we did in late 2016.
Right.
But at the last minute, it was changed to be this gathering of the volunteers. And I had a breakfast meeting with Senator Holdman, and I actually told him I'm a little disappointed because I would have loved for you to attend another simulation. He attended our first one.
Right.
And I explained to him that we were having a meeting of volunteers. And he just said, well, can I come to that? I'd love to meet all of the volunteers, and I like hanging out with the Convention of States people. So I reached out to our national folks, and we made it happen.
Now, once again, Senator Holdman was, am I correct, was the main sponsor of getting our application passed, resolution passed in the state of Indiana, right?
Yeah, in the Senate to be specific, but yes,
okay, in the Senate
sponsor.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you, I think that's really special that we have a legislator like him, so
absolutely,
so dedicated to what we're trying to do. So very, very good. And we're still trying to get him on one of our broadcasts here, and so we're going to try and make this happen. We just haven't been able to get the schedules matched up, but we're going to get him on here. He's agreed to come on. It's just a matter of finding the right time to bring him on. So look forward to talking to him. We may even, Paul, I'm just thinking out loud here. We may even if we get him lined up, we may even do an extended discussion period with him, because I think he would have a lot of things on his mind to talk about. But we'll work on that, folks. I'm sorry, Paul, what?
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, I know, Paul, I had asked you a question of what was one of the main things that or some of the main things that you enjoyed about the summit. So you said just meeting all the volunteers, right?
Yeah, it was wonderful to meet people who I've worked with virtually through web conferences or talk to over the phone or electronic communication from other states, and to finally meet them face to face and have a chance to talk and share stories and ideas. And it was also very meaningful to get a chance to meet and work with the national staff, who we often work with as well. They were all there, and it's just a top-notch organization, top to bottom.
Okay, so you got to meet volunteers and the national staff, right?
Right.
Okay, good deal. Well, we had some special people address and make speeches. I happened to be able to listen and view Mark Levin's comments, which, of course, people, if you're not aware, Mark Levin has been a huge supporter of Convention of States. So go ahead, Paul. I don't want you go ahead and talk about some of the special speakers that you had there.
Yeah. So I'll start with Mark. Mark Levin was our keynote speaker for our Saturday night dinner, and if you've ever seen him, he brings a lot of energy to his talks. He doesn't often do public speeches like this, so it was a real treat to have him. And rather than saying anything more about it, I would encourage you to go to the website we gave you, the cosleadershipsummit.com, and you can watch that session for yourself. You'll find it a real treat. Okay. But in addition to Mark, we had another favorite of ours, Senator Tom Coburn, former senator, excuse me, from Oklahoma. And he was, as always, very inspirational. And I'll just highlight a couple of the other speakers. Pete Hegseth from Fox News, Fox and Friends in the morning on weekends, is a great supporter, and he gave a real powerful speech, just really rallied the troops there. We had a visit from Ben Shapiro by video. Pardon me, he was not able to be there, but had some great comments for us. And again, you can see his video on the webpage. And our session was opened up by historian David Barton of Wall Builders. And he is just a fountain of knowledge about the Constitution and the founding era. And he did a great job of kicking us off. And so again, any one of these talks you can watch on the website, and I'd encourage you to do so.
Good. I know Pete Hegseth has participated in some other webinars and so forth in Convention of States. He's a very motivational guy, and he's very, very motivated about Convention of States. So I would like to see what he said, and I would like to see what Ben Shapiro had to say. So did Ben Shapiro speak for a very long period of time?
He had maybe a 5-minute video message that he sent out.
Okay, all right. Okay, great. Well, I know that there were some awards given. Am I correct?
Yes, there was. I think it was called the Lifetime Freedom Award. Was presented to Senator Tom Coburn for his work. There was also a Convention of States Volunteer of the Year award. And I'm sorry I don't remember her name, but one of our volunteers from our neighboring state of Ohio. And then the State of the Year was Mississippi. the last one to pass the resolution. And then in addition, there were 22 Convention Estates Challenge coins awarded to various volunteers.
Okay, now, folks, for those of you not familiar with our organization, Challenge Coin Awards are very, very special awards in our organization. There are only 300 of them to be given. I don't know how, I'm not sure how many have been given to date. Do you know, Paul?
Around 150.
Okay. So there will only be 300 given. And it's a very special award. And it's supposed to recognize those individuals that have gone above and beyond and have really dedicated themselves to Convention Estates and have done an outstanding job. And I'm very proud to say that one of the recipients at the Leadership Summit of the Challenge Coin Award was our own Paul Phillips. So I knew you were going to get this, Paul. So, and I was able to tune in during the award ceremony. So I saw you come up and get your award. Now, we counted up, there are 5 altogether in the state of Indiana that have received this award. Am I correct?
Yeah, I believe that's the case.
Yeah, 5 of us. So
now I have to say, notice Dale said 5 of us. Dale is a previous recipient of a challenge coin himself.
Yes, and I'll go ahead and mention our former state director Diane Gomez is a recipient. Jerry Rowe, one of our SIAs, is a recipient. Jack Dirth, who works on our legislative liaison team, is a recipient, played a major role in getting the resolution signed here in Indiana. And of course, Paul and myself. So those are the 5 individuals here in the state of Indiana. So, well, congrats.
Dale, I thought I'd give everybody an idea of what the award is.
Okay.
Each of us that you mentioned received this coin with our homeboy here, George Mason, on the front, father of Article 5, and then on the back is the original Convention Estates logo. So it's a very, very nice award.
And you get a nice, pretty framed certificate, and so, like I said, it's a very honored, very respected award in our organization. Okay, now there were some character actors there. Am I right? Are these better known as tribute artists, or I don't know the correct terminology.
Right. I just refer to them as character actors, but since we were in colonial Williamsburg, there are a number of individuals who are character actors of some of the founding fathers. And the first one that we heard from on our opening night was George Washington. And this character actor was obviously dressed as George Washington, spoke as he would in the 1700s, and he delivered to us his farewell address. Now, technically, he didn't give the address in public. It was a letter that was published in a number of newspapers, but it was very stirring to hear the words as if they were coming from George Washington himself. And then a couple of other days we had James Madison address us, as well as Thomas Jefferson. And these character actors, excuse me, are fantastic. You lose yourself in the character and think you're really there. And the only downside is due to copyright restrictions, we could not record those and publish those for you to see on the website.
Is that right? Oh, what a shame. What a shame. All right. Okay, well, we got to wrap this up. We've gone over. The next summit, I understand, is already being planned, right?
Yes, it is. Tentatively, it's going to be targeted for the last week in July next year. And it'll be held in a more central location, most likely Texas, maybe the Dallas area.
Okay.
But as we get closer, of course, details will be finalized.
All right. Okay. All right, Paul. Well, thank you very much for sharing those thoughts and with us on Summit. It was a tremendous success. So thank you for coming on and filling us in on that.
Oh, happy to do it. Thank you, Dale.
All right. Have a good evening, Paul. Okay, folks. Let's get my PowerPoint up here, and we'll get into then the next segment. And I want to activate this PowerPoint to so that you all can see it completely or see it in the best light possible on your screen. So I'm going to go to the to this setting on the PowerPoint. Okay, let's talk about here in the state of Indiana, some of the resources that we have available to us in convention of states. Is the main one is our national website, conventionofstates.com. This is a website jam-packed full of information, as well as on the backside of the website is a database tool that we all use extensively here in Convention of States. So you're going to hear us refer to this website frequently, conventionofstates.com. And if you're new to Convention of States, go to that website. That's the first step you should take. Go to that website, sign our petition, open an account, and then that'll get you into Convention of States, and that will initiate things to begin happening for you. Now, embedded in that national website is our state website page, conventionofstates.com/Indiana. Well, a more focused page on the state of Indiana. Social media platforms, we're on various platforms. Facebook, we have a state Facebook page, Convention of States, Indiana. As a matter of fact, this broadcast is coming to you this evening through that Facebook page. So that's Convention of States, Indiana. We have a YouTube channel here in the state of Indiana, COS Indiana. Now, this YouTube channel, I would encourage you to go to that channel. It's very much an educational resource. We have a number of narrated PowerPoint presentations on there. We have recordings of these broadcasts. We also have links to podcasts that Paul Phillips generates. He produces from time to time a podcast called the Free to Be Free podcast. And many times on our broadcast here, we'll use one of Paul's podcasts as a resource for the discussion period or segment of our broadcast. So encourage you to look up Paul's podcasts. They're very, very, very good. We're also on Twitter, #COS Indiana, Instagram, Convention of States, Indiana. We're on LinkedIn. We're looking at and expanding our social media platform to others. So we'll be adding more to the list as time goes on here. Okay, in the state of Indiana, we just surpassed in 2018 30,000 supporters in our state. We've been growing tremendously in the state of Indiana. So our goal for 2019 is to reach 40,000, and we're well on our way to reaching that goal for 2019. 40,000 supporters here in the state of Indiana. Of those supporters, about 2,900 are volunteers, people that have indicated a willingness to help out if called upon. And we also then have about 40 individuals in various leadership positions. So if you're new to a Convention of States, or if you've perhaps been a supporter for some time and you want to get more involved, please, the first step, and here's that website again, go to conventionofstates.com, click on the menu selection, Take Action, scroll down, look at the different volunteer opportunities that we have. If one's of interest to you, read about it, open it up, read some more about it. If you're still interested, go ahead and make application. Now, you're not obligated in any way, but what that does is your name then will come up on a report that I see every day, as well as a few others. One of us then will be in contact with you to further discuss your particular area of interest. So we would love to have your participation. We're always looking for people to occupy leadership positions in our state. So go to the website, conventionofstates.com, click on the menu selection, Take Action, go down and look at the different opportunities that we have. All right, let's get into now the third segment, which is the basics of Convention of States. And there are three tenets to our program, what we call the problem, the solution, and the plan. Now, the problem that we see with our federal government is that it's basically out of control, that our elected officials lack the will and the courage to address certain basic structural issues. Now, we're not blaming any one political party here. Both parties, believe me, have contributed to this. And it's been going on for decades. This is not something that just recently developed. This has been going on for decades. Now, we've broken the problem down into three abuses that we refer to them as abuses by the federal government that we think should be addressed. And the first one, of course, is our national debt. Now, we know it's over 22 trillion. We may have hit 23 trillion by now. I haven't checked on it lately. It's continuing to grow. Unfunded liabilities number I've heard was $250 trillion. So, but the point is that our national debt continues to grow, and is not being addressed. And this is the first abuse that we believe needs to be addressed. The second one has to do with our administrative state and the regulatory crisis that we have in our country. The administrative state has become known as the fourth branch of government. Now, I know the current administration has been eliminating a number of regulations, but many, many, many more need to be eliminated. But of most importance, I think, is the process by which these regulations are created needs to be curtailed and needs to be reduced and controlled. So the regulatory crisis is the second abuse that we see. The third abuse has to do with state sovereignty. When the country was founded, we were founded under the concept of dual federalism, where the federal government and the states would share in power. Well, that has all tilted in the favor of the federal government. Now, obviously, power, money plays a role here, but we also think that the career politician plays a role in this too. So this is the third abuse that we think needs to be addressed. Okay, what's our solution? Well, our solution is right in Article 5 of our Constitution. And that is Article 5 describes two methods whereby we can propose amendments to the Constitution. And we're going to touch on both of those methods here. One, of course, has been used. The other has not been used. And so we're going to let's touch on those just very briefly here. Two methods. Now, folks, we're not making this up. This is right in Article 5 of our Constitution. The first method is whereby 2/3 of Congress proposes amendments, and then any proposed amendments have to be ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures, which would be 38 states. All right? Well, the second method in Article 5 calls for 2/3 of the state legislatures to apply to hold a convention of states for the purpose of amending or proposing amendments to the Constitution. Any proposed amendments, just like in Method 1, any proposed amendments would have to be then ratified by 3/4 of the state legislatures of 38 states. Now, it takes 2/3 of the state legislatures to call this convention. That's 34 states required to call the convention. Well, what's our plan to make this happen? We have two parts to the plan. The first part has to do with the application itself. And we have designed the application to be used by the states whereby to apply to hold this convention. And our application, the subject matter of our application, which will determine the agenda of the convention. The application addresses fiscal restraints, limiting the power and jurisdiction of the federal government, and term limits. Those are the areas that we would like to see amendments proposed, which would address the three abuses of the government that we mentioned and that mentioned earlier in the presentation. The second part of our plan is mobilizing the grassroots. Now that, and when we talk about the grassroots, we're talking about you, me, and our state legislators. Mobilizing the grassroots to make this happen. The grassroots is a major, major part of our organization here in Convention of States. So we've got a lot of momentum going. We're now in all 50 states. 15 states have actually made application. We got to get to 34. Indiana is one of those 15 states. We were the 6th state to make application, or to pass the resolution, as it's also referred to. So we got a lot of momentum going here. We would love to have your involvement. So if you have any desire at all, like I said, go to that website, conventionofstates.com, and check us out. All right, folks, let's get back then to, let me get rid of the PowerPoint, and so you can see me. And let's see if we've got anybody. Don't have anybody. Well, we got one. There's James Cressy. Hi, James. James, I believe, lives in Missouri. He's joined us from time to time in the past. So welcome. Thank you. Glad to have you tonight, James. I wanted to tell you about our next broadcast. And I'm very excited about this. Our next broadcast will be on September 16th. And we're going to have a special guest with us that evening. And her name is Debbie Stewart. And Debbie is a homeschool teacher. And she is a Convention of States volunteer. And Debbie is going to introduce to us a series that she's going to be presenting to us on a regular basis for some time in our broadcast. And the series is Understanding the Constitution. Now, I won't get into any details on this at this point in time. We'll save that for when Debbie comes on the 16th. But one of the resources that she uses for this series is very special to those of us in convention estates, and you'll learn about that next week when we bring Debbie on and introduce the series to you. So again, our broadcast on September 16th, 7 p.m., we're going to introduce to you Debbie Stewart and the Understanding the Constitution series. So very much looking forward to Debbie coming on and starting that broadcast with us. Well, I want to wrap things up. We've actually gone a little over time this evening, but that's okay. I think we've had a very good broadcast this evening, and I hope you have found it very interesting. But I like to close every broadcast with a special quote that one of our founders, Mark Meckler, stated not too long ago, and that is that, there's a basic question, a fundamental question facing our country, and that question is not what should we do. The question is, who will decide? And very simply, the question facing us is a two-word question: who decides? So we think, of course, in convention estates, that we, the people, should have a greater say-so in who decides. And that's what we're all trying to do, is to bring about a convention estates to propose amendments to the Constitution to address the problems that we see with our federal government. So with that, I will leave you with that thought. And once again, please plan on tuning in to our broadcast next Monday evening at 7 p.m. And so that'll be it for tonight. Thank you. Have a good evening. Good night, everyone.